Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. So I have a super interesting video for you today. I got a question from one of the subscribers as to explain how to do a waterfall chart, and I thought, well, let's see how to do a waterfall chart. But let's try to make it a little bit cooler than how we would usually do it, right? So first, this is what we're going to look at today. We're going to look at how to build a waterfall chart, customize the colors, look at what is a waterfall chart, and we look at how you can build it. Have different colors for whether it's positive values, negative values, looking at the totals, how to do it in the right way. And then let's go one step forward because why the fuck not, right? Let's have a little bit of a simulator where now you have a waterfall chart, you're making a presentation to your bosses, and you say, hey, but you know what? So this is how our company sales and expenses looks like. This is how the balance sheet looks like. But in case we could make 10% more sales next year, you see that I've simulated the sales by 10%. So now I have 5.5 million instead of just 5, and by 20% now the sales is 6 million, and in that case we have a total income. Here we have a subtotal, that is our if we keep our expenses the same, then in the end this total sum that we can get at the end of the year is our profits. Our net profits is 3.31 million, as opposed to if the sales is what we expect, which is 2.31 million. Same way, we can even make a simulator to see what if our expenses goes up, what if we hire more people, how does that affect our net profit. So this is what we're going to look at. If you're interested, stick around, and let's get to it, shall we? Now, first things first, let's create a data sheet. So I've just created sales, yeah, 5 million. And for those who want to learn how to, you can just create a table. So this is what I created. You do something called load star inline. So you're now loading the data, and then you give the names for the tables. So I can say sales, expenses, and I've given some taxes, extra income, salaries, rebates, and next, in the next line, you put in the values. So in my case, I've put 5 million, 2 million expenses, and yeah, so on and so forth. So this is how you can create your own data. Um, I'm just going to take this away, and let's start creating a new sheet. Now let's select our waterfall chart. Drag, drop it. Now we have a waterfall chart. So what exactly does a waterfall chart do? Now, a waterfall chart basically shows you your positive gains, your negative gains, and then the total of it. So let's say you're running a company and you have sales. So let's add in our sales here. So we say sum of sales, which is, and we have our sales, which is positive. So we have 5 million worth of sales. And next, what we want to do is, let's say we have some more income here that's coming in. Um, we have something called extra income. So I'm going to add that. Now, what happens to the extra income? Is it positive or is it negative? Now, income, so it's positive. So let's add it to our balance sheet, right? So let's go back and say, let's add it to our balance sheet. So this is all our positive income. So now what we can do is we can show what is our total here, total income that's coming in. And we can do a subtotal at the end of it. And we can click this as a subtotal. And you see here, so this is both. Basically what it does is it adds up these two. And we have a subtotal of 5.56. And we can call this as our total income, right? And now you also want to say, hey, this is cool. We have our total income, but we have some expenses as well. So let's from our total income, let's take away the expenses that we have, right? So we can go to add, we have some expenses, we say sum of expenses, and now what it's done is it's added our expenses, which is wrong because we have our total sales here and we want to minus our expenses, right? So let's go to expenses, and instead of measure option as add, what we're going to say is we want to minus it from our previous one. So essentially, this is a consecutive way of adding your balance sheet, plus, minus, just like another, just like how accountants do. You add all your assets, you remove all your liabilities, right? Now, in this case, we're going to say, hey, this expenses is not to be added because it's, if you see here, it's being added to our total. Instead, this has to be subtracted, right? Now we have subtracted our expenses and it's shown here. We have some more expenses, so let's subtract them as well so that we get our total profit. So we are minusing all our incomes by our all our liabilities, and then in the end we want to see the total profit, and that's what the waterfall chart is really good for. It shows you a really nice breakdown. So let's add, so we have our expenses. Then we have our salaries. So we have our employees and we need to pay their salaries. Now again, it's added our salaries. No, but the thing is we're gonna subtract the salaries because it's going out, right? So we're gonna subtract it. Next, what we're gonna do is we're gonna add another, we have our taxes that we need to pay. So let's subtract our taxes as well. It's again added here, but we want to click down and go to measure operation and we want to subtract, right? Great. Now, and I have one last thing, that is our tax rebates that we're getting. And this one is positive. So it goes, we're going to add it instead of minusing. So now what we can do is have a final number here where we can show what is our net profits. And here what we can do is click on the last one, and you can always add a subtotal. You add a subtotal and you can give it a name. You can say net profits. So essentially, when you're making a presentation now, you can show that, hey, we made our sales of 5 million, and then we had some extra income, so you're going up, and this is our total. And then we have our expenses, which is 2 million. We are paying the salaries, which is another million. And then we're paying some more taxes, but we're getting some tax rebates. And then you're gonna show your net profits. So this is how you can do it. And how do we customize it? Well, let's go into appearance. Let's go into colors and legends, and here the colors, we're gonna switch this one off, and here you can choose now what do you want the positive colors to be. So I want the positive colors to change here. I want the negative colors to be, say, this here, and I want my subtotals to be this color here. So now you have a really nice, easy way. And then if you want, you can always move the way you have added or subtracted things. Um, so this is a simple way of how to do a waterfall chart. I hope this is helpful. Now let's make this a bit cooler, right? Because, well, we don't want to be just average doing a simple little waterfall chart. We want to go one step ahead. So you know what? Let's try to add a couple of variables so that we can simulate and show, hey, what happens if our sales is 10% more, 20% more? What happens if our expenses goes higher? What happens if our salaries, if we hire more people, what's going to happen there? So let's do that, shall we? Let's say we want to create three, yeah, let's create three parameters so that it's going to help us, okay? So let's go to custom objects. Let's go to variable input, drag and drop variable input, make it a little smaller. And this one, let's say for sales, and let's put two more. And let's first create variables. So let's go here, click on this. We're going to create a variable. We're going to say create new. And here I'm going to say v sales. And what is the value for variable? Nothing as of now, because we want the input to come from the variable input that we just created. So let's say we're just going to give it a name and blank. Okay. So now we have v sales that's created. Let's create another one, shall we? Let's create v expenses. So create that. And what if we hire new employees? So let's just call them v salaries. Now let's create that. So we have three variables. Now we want to assign values to it. Now all three are blank. So we want to assign values. And how do we do that? Through the variable input. So here I'm going to go in, click on appearance, and I'm going to go to variable. And here I can select the variable. So the three that I just created is going to show up. So now three variables have shown up. I'm going to select the first one, v sales. I want to input it as, let's input it as a slider. It's always cool when you slide it and add data to it. Update it on drag, which basically means that as you're dragging it, the value gets updated. Minimum, well, we can put minus 0.4 because it's 40%. What is the maximum? Well, we want to simulate it till what if our sales goes up 40%? Very ambitious, right? Oh, sorry, it should be 0.4. And what is the step? 0.1, because we're all talking in percentages. Let's click on this. So it's going to show me here. And 0.4, minus 0.4, that is minus 40% to plus 40%. And the step is of 10%, right? Let's go to general and give it a name, sales simulator. Done. As we drag this, nothing is really happening here, but what's happening is the variable that you created is being updated. So since you left that blank, but you have connected the blank variable to the variable input, as you update this, the value for that variable gets updated. But we haven't really connected it to anything, right? So let's first copy it, paste. This is the sales simulator. Now let's make this our expenses simulator. And now the variable for this is not v sales. Instead, we're going to connect it to our v expenses. And we can still say everything else is the same. And let's just copy this, paste it again. And let's say this is nothing but our salaries simulator. And we can leave all of this the same. Perfect. So now we have three simulators here that really, oh, sorry, these two are connected to each other, which means that variable here, I need to connect this one to salaries. Okay, so now we have three simulators, which is kind of pointless because it's not doing anything. So how about we fix that, right? So let's say now what I want is, this is the sum of sales, which is coming from my data here, but I want to change the sales as I want, as I select here. So now let me go back here to the data, into my sales, and say, hey, this is the sum of sales, but I also want to include the variable that I just created. So let's say sum of sales multiplied by 100% or 1, which is 100%. So 1 plus whatever the variable input is. So V sales. So what happens here? Now V is nothing but 100%, which is 1. So 100% of sum of sales will be the same amount. Now, if our sales is, let's say, zero point 0.1, or we increase our slider to 0.1, so increase by 10%. So 10% here would be, so 1 plus, what is our 10%? It would be the variable. As you change the slider, the variable would get updated. So when you move it to 10%, it would be 0.1. So you would be multiplying your total sales by 1.1. So that would be equal to 10%, right? So in case you make it minus, then it will be 1 minus 0.1, which would be 0.9. So you're reducing the total sales by 10%. And that's a cool way to like simulate, I think. So let's apply and say done and see if it actually works. Now, as I move the slider, so this is 20%, 30%, you see my sales has just gone up from 5 million to 6 million, 6 million to 6.5, and everything else changes. So my total net profits, if I can make a 30% increase, my net profit goes to 4.1 million. Otherwise, it goes to 2.67 million. That's pretty cool, right? Now let's make it a little bit better. So now we have added sales simulator. How about connecting our expenses as well? So we have an expense variable which gets updated as you change this, but we just need to add that to our waterfall chart here. So let's go to expenses. Let's open the expression here. It's the sum of expenses multiplied by 1 plus whatever value of variable for expenses is, right? So if the variable expenses is 0.1, then it's going to be 1 plus 0.1, 1.1, and that is nothing but, and you're multiplying that with the expenses. Apply, and let's see if that works. So now we have sales is 0 and expenses is, you see our expenses is increasing, so our net profits is going down. Perfect. This is exactly what we want. One final thing, the salary simulator. So let's connect that one as well, shall we? So we have our salaries. We have our salaries here. Sum of salaries. Let's go into the expression, and here we're going to add the same thing. The total number of salaries multiplied by whatever changes we make. That is 1 plus V salaries, which gets updated with the salaries slider, which updates the variable in turn, and it gets called here. So you do an apply, and now we have, so as you change, you can change this, change this, change this, and have a cool little graph that keeps makes it super dynamic, I think. So imagine presenting this instead of just a stupid little waterfall chart, right? Super cool. We're able to simulate our salaries, simulate expenses, simulate sales, and see how that affects our net profits. That's pretty cool. One final touch, just to round things off. Now, as you make changes here, you don't really see um, what's happening, right? Well, it would be nice if we could like actually say, hey, we have made 20% change to our sales or expenses or salaries. So I think that would be nice to have. So let's just click on edit, go back to the sheet, Let's go to general, give this um, overview, and let's go to subtitle. And here let's actually add an expression where as you change this, it shows you what is that simulation that you have actually done. So how do we do that? Let's go to subtitle, and over here um, let's say simulated sales by space and what is the simulated sales? That is nothing but v sales times 100 and percentage, right? This, and we need to add another and here. So simulated sales by 100% by whatever the value is into 100. And then we are adding an extra percentage here. So let's apply. So now it shows simulated by 20%. If I move this to, now it shows simulated sales by minus 10%. So now you have an idea on what's going on. That's pretty cool. And since we have two more, let's just add that as well. And simulated expenses by close another apostrophe and v expenses times 100% or times 100 so that we get it in percentage. And we want to add, so every time you add a value you just need to type and every time it's a text you need to put that inside particular inside apostrophes. So apostrophes, and you need to put in your simulated whatever text you want, and then if you're calling a value then you need to press and then call the value. So now we have this, and let's add one more and open. So simulated salaries by space and v salaries times 100 and then add a percentage in the end. So this is how it is. Let's click on apply. Yep. And now you see here there's no space in between. So let's go inside. Let's give a space here, space here. Okay. So now we have that. And now every time we change this, it says simulated sales by minus 10%, simulated expenses by 20%, and simulated salaries by 10%, and you see your net profits. Yeah, so this was it. I hope that this was helpful. I'll have the QEF file down below so that you can download it. I hope this was helpful. I hope you really liked it. Please leave a like and stay tuned for more. Peace.